Welcome to India and England News. Our guest today is Manorama Choudhury, a local poetess from Boston. I still remember for the first time I heard her poetry she was reciting at a get-together, and I was really mesmerized by her poem because it was a storytelling through poetry. And I love that type of poetry, something very similar to ghazal lovers who like nazms. So that was the first time I saw her recite the poetry. And later on, I read a couple of her poems, one about Malhar, about rainy season. It really transported me back to my village in my childhood because I could visualize myself under the rain. So it's very exciting for me to talk to Manorama today, and we are going to talk to her about how she got interested into poetry and her themes and how she develops her concepts and ideas. So Manorama, welcome to our studio.
Thank you, first of all, for having me here. It's a pleasure and honor. And
Excellent. So let's start that you grew up in Odisha.
yes,
And I studied there in Odisha.
yes,
And what brought you here to the US?
I got married
Okay.
and came here.
And which year was that roughly?
96.
96. Okay. So tell us about your, how did you get into composing poetry, writing poetry? When was the first time you thought you should write?
If I remember, I'm sure I was writing during my high school days, towards end of my high school and college days, but I never shared with anybody. I don't think anybody saw that side of me. I used to maintain a diary, I would just write down, but I don't remember that. I don't have the diary with me now. But then next chapter of life is raising kids. So no writing. Completely like an out of that touch. I forgot even that I can write.
Mhm.
It started during my daughter's senior year when she was so busy with high school.
And which year was it?
That was 19, I would say 2019.
Okay.
So that year, when she was all like by herself doing her study, I don't have too much to drive around. That's when, I was started doing a little bit of introspect myself, thinking that what's the purpose of my next chapter in life?
Mhm.
So was definitely feeling a little depressing, like, okay, I don't have anything to do.
And was this time also COVID time too? Or
COVID started the following year.
the following year? Okay.
Yeah. So here it started, I would say 2018 November. I had a small party at home for Thanksgiving. That's where I heard one of my dear friend who unfortunately passed away, Neeraj Chandraji.
Mhm.
He recited one of his poem in that get together. He just took out one of the folded paper handwritten poem, must be written decades before. And it was such a beautiful poem. A lot of Urdu words which I didn't understand, but I could feel the poet's pain in it. So next day when I write thanks note to all my guests, I wrote him a couple of lines in response to that. That's when he said, "Oh, you're a poet."
Mhm.
I said, "Oh, I don't think I'm a poet. It's just a normal response I just wrote." He said, No, you are a poet. You should write." I said, "Well, I have no formal education in Hindi, but that's my primary mode of communication nowadays. And if I write, I make more mistakes." He said, "Don't worry about mistakes. Poems should be from your feelings. Minor corrections, anybody can do it." So he encouraged me. That's when I started writing small story kind of poems because I didn't know anything else.
So now let's. I want to go back, again, to the high school days, because at that time, I think most of us, who are in a very different phase of life going
Yes.
through, and I can virtually guarantee that everybody is a poet in high school, right?
Yes.
But very few people who really progress later on go back to that high school writing and poetry. So this was a big difference that you made because you went back to writing. So let's fast forward from 2018 to 2022. In 4 years, you have written a number of poems,
Yes.
and also I am told that you have also launched some filmization, or some of your poetry has been converted into videos as well. So how that happened?
So 2019 was mostly writing in Hindi.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2020, when pandemic hit, it completely discovered a different side of me.
Mm.
And first few months were making masks and all. Then in the summer of 2020, I saw Odia community. There is also a convention happens every year generally, but that time they did in Zoom. Not everything happened, only few workshops. The poetry
Here in the US?
Yes,
Okay.
here in US. So they recorded like a Zoom session for poets.
Mhm.
I only watched their recording. Till then, I have not written any Odia since my high school till now. When I heard them, I said, oh, I write in Hindi, so why not in Odia too? So
Mother tongue.
Mother tongue. Odia is my mother tongue, and that's my high schooling. I didn't go to convent school. So why not I start? So my first poem was one of my Hindi poem I translated in Odia.
Mhm.
Because Hindi and Sanskrit Odia are very much like a sister languages.
Mhm.
So it was easy for me. And I shared with a friend who liked it so much, and he added me to a literature group.
Mhm.
That's when few other people kind of read it and gave comment. They thought, personally, I got couple of compliments saying, oh, you're a new poet, or you must be a poet or something. And I was in my heart thinking, I don't know. I just wrote something. If somebody validating, that means there must be something there. So that's when it started. With that small group, I join every month for reciting. Few of them encouraged. And in that literature group, I found a mentor who is in Bhubaneswar.
Mhm.
And he really helped. He's like Niraji. He also helped me a lot, understanding the nuances of poetry.
Mhm.
And that's how it just started. And
So how many videos you have done so far?
videos, only 3 I have
3,
done so
okay.
far. But my own reciting, I have quite a few, more than 25 poems I
Oh,
must have recited.
Excellent. So now let's come back to nitty-gritty about poetry. So what is poetry means to you?
It's just the feelings
Mhm.
expressed in words.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
Okay. Well, I have read a couple of your one, of course, as I said in the beginning, that I heard you reciting poetry, and then I read one in Hindi. And I get a sense there is a very intense, desire or something for longing. There is always, that's the message I came across. And so, what is the theme? What makes you write? How do you develop the theme of your poetry?
I think every poet has a different genre that if the words comes to. So I always believe poets are not creators. They are just a medium. You receive some feelings, you transmit in words, you're a transmitter. So maybe my normal genre is like romance and Shringar Bhakti.
Mhm.
That I believe is the topmost bhakti.
Mhm.
Most of my poems where my lover is Lord Krishna.
Mhm.
People may read it in a different way. They may interpret differently. But for me, I write for him.
Mhm.
The Malhar song that you liked it, that poem, honestly, I thought, is Radha always missing Krishna? Why not Krishna missing Radha?
Mhm.
That was the original thought I had,
Mhm.
that if he is missing me and if I'm Radha, how would that be? And I remember the day I wrote, it was like raining. And somehow Meghadutam, Kalidas, Meghadutam,
sure,
it
yeah.
was in my mind. And
I have
somehow
read it so many times.
Yeah, it was.
One of the best love stories, and the description is
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Meghadutam, yeah.
So that's how it just started. And longing, I think.
Actually, I was able to get some sense. I was thinking about Meghadutam when I was reading
Yes.
that too, because also talks about the clouds and all the
Yes.
bursts and all this stuff. Yes, yes.
Yes. So longing part, I would say, we all have grown, you cannot say in your life you never had any infatuation or anything. All that part was part of your different, part and parcel of your life, I would say. So when I felt, my first song, if you have seen that Apasara Smriti, there I wrote whatever memories we have in past, if you're trying to find that love, what you're really wanting, it will not happen with humanly thing. Definitely, you're not getting it. So why not simply
I disagree,
love God?
but go ahead.
Why not I love, if I can love God with that intensity, I might find that love in the humans. That's what I was thinking more.
Yeah. But I think, I think life is full of
Emotions.
emotions, and, a lot of things happen in life, and where people, I have seen some people who, for them, as you said, the poetry, that's the beauty of poetry, that it can, you see poetry, it can be God, goddess, it can be human being and all this stuff, and depending on your state of mind.
Yeah.
So I think again, this is my personal commentary here, is poetry is more the person who is reading it.
Yes.
And in what state of mind he or she is.
Exactly.
And that's how the person is going to interpret your poetry. So it's just relating. And that's why, when I read that your Malhar poem, I thought, oh my God, reminds me, because I used to be like that. And,
Yes.
So now question is, again, so coming back to the real life, I think, I know some people, and I have some friends who literally for them there is no difference between their own love and the God of love.
Yes.
And so there's not much difference. And the key thing is that the devotion, that, how committed, how devoted you are. And once you take your ego out, then everything, it becomes love.
Yes.
The ego is the one which really breaks all this, because it inserts there. But once you take the ego, whether it's a God or human being, you are in the same blissful state.
Well, God is in everybody's heart.
Sure,
so
yeah, exactly.
That's how, if you want to reach to everybody, you just love God, and then you reach everybody.
Sure.
That's how I think.
So now you mentioned, as during middle of the conversation, that you're, the romantic genre, you have your poetry. So I have to ask you, what do you think? What is romance for you? I know it's a tough question on this part here, but
it's definitely a tough question. Romance is, I don't know, it's probably just love, whatever pure unconditional love. I don't know if I can just put it in a perspective differently. Love can be between anybody. It does not have to be like a boy or girl.
Sure, absolutely.
Not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, okay. Now, as you come closer towards our interview, one question again I want to ask you about. You mentioned, that you write your poetry for Krishna.
Yes.
And how that factor started with you? When did that concept emerge in your head?
I think pandemic. During pandemic, my whole thought process changed. 2018, I read first time the book. My choice of books are generally spiritual books. So my first book that made a big impact on me was Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yoganand. And then lately I've been reading a lot of books on Sri Ramakrishna. So everywhere I feel to reach, prior to pandemic, I would say, I would make every effort to make everybody happy. In the process, nobody is happy, not everybody is happy, neither I get happiness, right? So my thought process changed in a different way, thinking, okay, if I can please God in whatever way, in my love, in my devotion, in my writing, or whatever way, if God is there in everybody's heart, it is going to touch everybody. So why should I just try to please others? Let me try to please God. And where will I please that? I have to please Thee. If He is within me, I have to make myself happy. So be content and happy with what I do. And that probably reflects and touches others. That's what I'm guessing.
So why Krishna? Why not somebody else?
I think Krishna is always known as the lover boy.
But that's why I'm going to get
So if I tell my husband he's a lover boy, yes. If I can find another friend, he can be representing anybody.
Yeah, I think he's a very romantic guy.
Very romantic. So I don't think Rama comes around like that. It's Krishna. One time some Swamiji was visiting. Why do we do so much of Krishna, and why not Rama? He said, well, Rama was more of a simple and more principled guy. Everybody loves Krishna because he was more naughty and
he was like
any other human being. So that's why we probably look Krishna in everybody's.
Okay. Is any book in making?
Yes, there is definitely a book in making in Odia, and it's coming to a shape that I don't know if I'm ready to say, but it's about Astanaika.
Mm.
So it's the since a lot of my poems are in romantic genre, and I place myself the lover to the god. Somehow this book, the poems are evolving different emotions of women. Astanaika doesn't mean 8 women. It's the different emotions of one person. And then my mentor, who is Dr. Jaikrishna Choudhury in Odisha, he kept on saying, okay, if you write all this, then you might as well do a little bit more research on what has been done before and how Astanaikas were represented in different art forms. So a lot of that research is going on.
Okay. So basically, you are writing, composing in either Hindi or in Odia.
Yeah.
Any effort in English? Or?
Yes, there are a few points in English. And when I do recite for Sapne here for the Harvard poetry thing, I do translate each of them in English also, because I'm supposed to.
So if any of our viewers wants to read your poetry, where they should go?
If they want to read, in YouTube, I have quite a few poems. I have a website, manoramachoudhury.com. There are links to YouTube, or a few poems are there. I do write also sometimes. My writings are more like a reflections. Whatever I experience, I write. I don't think I can write anything non-fiction yet. Fiction yet. It's mostly non-fiction and mostly my inner feelings and reflections.
And that's what poetry is.
That's what poetry is. Yeah.
You are able to express yourself.
Yes.
Excellent.
So just follow your passion. Live your passion. That's all I would say.
Okay. Now, last question to you is that. As you said that you were taking care of family, and at the same time now you have found this new career in writing poetry. What advice you will give to other people who are in your similar situation?
I would say just live your passion. You don't want to die with any regrets. That's all I think. Whatever it is, go for it and do it. Do your best. Don't say I can't do it. There is always a possibility that you can do things.
Sure.
And motivate yourself. I would say nobody can inspire you but yourself.
Sure. Self-reflection is the best inspiration. Yes.
Yeah.
You are not depending on anybody else.
Yeah, just try to be content and happy with what you do, but do put your best effort.
Excellent.
That's all I would say.
Excellent. Manorama, thank you so much for coming to our studio, and it was really pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
And when your book comes out, we will have another round.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Hopefully one day my Hindi books will come out too. I don't know.
Excellent. Yeah, but good, you are on the right track, and keep going, and hopefully looking forward to reading more romantic poetry.
Definitely.
Keeping Krishna in mind.
No, you can be the Krishna in that. When you read it, you can be the Krishna in that poem. When you read, as you said, you have to pick your mental state.
You are reading yourself.
Yes.
Anything we read, we are reading ourselves.
Exactly.
How again, I said it earlier, but how our mood is, how our feelings are, how our thoughts are. And the poet or writer is just basically giving us a prompt to think.
I feel a successful poem where when the reader is reading, they should feel either I'm the catalyst in the poem or it is written for me.
Yeah.
If you feel that, then that poem is a successful poem.
Okay.